Hey everybody, how about that? No intro music. Of course, if you're on YouTube, you don't hear our intro music, or you do hear our intro music now, don't you?
I don't think
No,
so.
because I cut that in later. Never mind. So we should have played it for our YouTube folks because
We can
it's not
keep we
even
can keep that in mind for future weeks.
copyrighted anymore. Hey, it's the Scott and Scott Show. Welcome to Winners and Winers Radio bonus edition, college football style. As Scott and I are going to take a look at every ranked team over the weekend that plays, give our thoughts, and of course, at the very end, we will break down our three favorite picks as we go head to head and keep a running total. And I know, Scott, I edged you out last year, by a game, right?
You edged me out because I believe I blew a 5-game lead with about 3 weeks left. It was a massive choke job. I looked like the Mets in the average September. It wasn't pretty.
You're trying to run backwards into the end zone, and you just fell on your butt.
I was really high
half yard
stepping
away.
from. I was high stepping from the 30, but I didn't have Deion Sanders' speed. I got caught at like the 10.
That's right. That's absolutely you were Deion Sandersing it with Wes Welker's body. Buddy.
We were both profitable, but
Right.
I believe you were just a little bit more profitable than
I was trying to find, and I couldn't find the file. I want to say like I was about 53.6 and you were about 53.4 or something like that.
It was very close, yeah.
We both eked out a small profit. So anyway, good luck to you this year, rather, sir. Good luck indeed. All right, so we're gonna get started. We're gonna do it in reverse order. And by the way, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading this show in podcast form. This is not on the radio today, so we can drop F-bombs if we want. Scott, I know you're a big F-bomb guy.
I know we can. We could also throw in the occasional donkey of the day sound effect just for fun, because why not?
That's right. That's right. You know, I'm so out of the habit of cussing. When you and I just did the YouTube shows, I would just let it fly. But now that we've been doing radio, I'm kind of out of it. So
it's really the main reason why we keep it running on YouTube in the middle of the radio show, so we can throw about 60 seconds in where we could just get the curses out, you know?
There were some people in the comment section, that seems to be their favorite part of the show. the golden minute where we split it up and have to put
us just shooting the shit in the minute in between.
Exactly. So, and the nice part is I don't have to mark explicit on when I put it on the podcast. Like, that sounds like we're doing something we shouldn't be. Anyway, this is going to be long enough, so let's get to it, dude. First game between ranked teams, Scott. One of the few. What do we got? 4 games between ranked teams this week. I don't know. We'll know by the time we're done with this. It's going to be the Louisiana Raging Cajuns heading down to Austin to take on Steve Sarkisian's new Texas Longhorn squad. Scott, Louisiana's ranked 23. Texas ranked 21. By the way, if you're wondering what happened to 25, 24, and 22, Arizona State, they already played. They were 25th. Utah played. They were 24th. And Coastal Carolina, they were 22nd. So that's why we jump into 23 versus 21. So Texas, -9 on this one. You got your total of 58. Scott, these Cajuns jumped up and bit Iowa State last year in the opener. Do they have another Big 12 surprise in them?
Well, in this situation, we know Texas in the past, at least with Herman, was awful in season openers, whether it involved the 2 losses to Maryland, etc. But I'm really confused by the spread because Texas brings in a bunch of new guys. They have a new quarterback. Ellinger's no longer there. You bring in a new system, a bunch of assistant coaches who went with Sarkisian, and UL Lafayette brings back basically everybody. Levy Lewis is back for what feels like 40 years. I know you ended up losing Elijah Mitchell because he went to the NFL, but they still have a solid defense. The quarterback's good. We know that Lewis, he might not be the most, let's just say, dynamic quarterback in terms of just, I'd say, arm strength, but he's mobile, and he doesn't turn the ball over. And Texas's defense has had issues in the past. Now, Robinson, the running back for Texas, is an absolute lunatic who could potentially rush for 250 yards. That would not surprise me, but I like the points here. I can't lay Texas about -9 when you have a brand new coach who we're not even sure if that's a good hire or not, a brand new quarterback who we don't really know much about, and Lafayette's very experienced. I'm going to take the Raging Cajuns plus the points. You?
Yeah, I think early in the season, you might want to look towards the more experienced squads versus the teams that are plugging in brand new players, even if they are 4- and 5-star recruits, like Texas certainly has across the board. Sometimes it takes a little while for those teams to gel. Maybe they can get it done in a half. Maybe it takes almost an entire game. I think eventually you're right. I think the talent wins out, but I want no part of laying this Longhorn squad. That, if you think about arrogant fan bases and arrogant football teams, is there anyone worse than Texas? Without being able to back it up. I mean, you can talk about your Alabama fans, but they talk the talk, they walk the walk. Texas, they just yap. They just run their yappers.
See, that's even the more hypocritical part, because they can talk, but other teams can't do the horns down celebration in response to them talking.
I'm going to be doing. I told you before. I'm going to be doing it all game long.
You should. I'm just saying that's another example of why people should somewhat dislike the fan base, because they're talking crap about everybody, and yet as soon as you want to dish it back out to them, all of a sudden you're not allowed to, at least in-game situations, for a horns down thing. Yeah. I think that whole thing's stupid. But based on the actual question marks remaining for Texas, is the defense good? We don't know. Is the new quarterback any good? We don't know. So until we actually answer some questions, I'm going to take the points.
Yep, I'm going to take the points. I'm going to play the over 58 small lean there.
I think if you want to take another long shot parlay, I know I mentioned for the Friday games, which of course, by the time this actually comes out, is already going to happen. I mentioned maybe if you want a long shot to sprinkle in like a Charlotte, because I thought maybe they can give Duke a run for their money. But I think if you want to go for a 3-pick, huge payout moneyline parlay, I think Lafayette's a decent option. Don't you think?
Agreed. Hey, is this going to be another season where we have to listen to the only Jew in the world that doesn't know how to pronounce Levi?
I don't actually. I think it's Levy.
It's not Levy.
I think it is.
Levy.
I've seen broadcasts before. They call him Levy Lewis.
How is it spelled?
Levi. It's spelled the same way as you'd spell it the other way, but I'm telling you, I've heard multiple broadcasters pronounce it Levy. So that's why I do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to you on this.
You can research it. I know how to pronounce it the usual Jewish way, but I'm telling you, in broadcast form, I've heard it Levy about 10 different times.
Okay. All right. The same guy that says bison?
Bison?
Bison.
Bison?
Bison.
Is that with a Z?
Haven't you ever listened to the North Dakota State games?
I actually have not.
It makes me crazy. And I looked it up one time, and it's actually a thing it's somehow developed at the school and it came about organically. They actually call them the bison.
Okay. I'm going to call them the bison because I can. So
I know. No, it made me crazy the first time I heard it. I thought it was just this announcer being stupid. And then I heard it again with another announcer. I'm like, okay, I got to look this up. All right. We're ripping through it right now, buddy.
Yeah. What are we, one game through?
Yeah, we're one game. We're like an hour and a half. Montana at Washington. Washington minus 23, 54.5 is your total. Washington is ranked 20th. They are at home. Montana out of the Big Sky. What are you liking here?
I actually kind of like the points here with the FCS squad. I think it's close. My question for you is, do you like Morris at quarterback for Washington? Because I'm not the biggest fan.
This is a confounding Washington team to me. I cannot get them right, Scott. About the time I buy in, I'm all ready to go full on Huskies, and they crap the couch.
Montana's not a bad FCS team.
No, they're not dreadful. They're not dreadful. 23 is a ton. I think it's one of those games where
I just think it's going to be ugly.
I think it's going to be ugly. I think the talent wears them down. I'll take Washington in a small lean there. And
if I had to pick one favorite play from that game, once again I'm passing on it entirely, but I like the under. I'm expecting a good defense from Washington. I have question marks about Morris, and Montana has some experience. I think that this team could keep it somewhat close, but that's also why I'm kind of leaning to Montana, because I think that if you're going to have a low-scoring game, then I'm just going to be tempted naturally to look at the under.
Yeah, and I think that anytime you have an FCS team involved playing a top 25 team, you have to consider the under, because there's a good chance that the offense is not going to be able to execute the way they are used to for that smaller school.
I think there are multiple ways to cash the under, where there's only really going to be one way to cash the actual spread for Montana, because Washington could win this game 38-6, and nobody would be surprised, and yet it would still go well under. So I just think this total's too high.
Okay, I'm with you there. Indiana and Iowa, Scott, at long last, Indiana makes their season debut. A lot of big things expected. They're number 17. Iowa's number 18. Iowa's at home up in Iowa City, -4, and a positively NFL-like total of 46. Scott, welcome to the Big Ten and 46, baby.
I can't say I'm surprised.
No, not at all. It's two teams that great things are expected out of. I guess it really comes down to fact: are you buying Michael Penix?
I actually am. I don't think he has any pro upside, but I actually thought he was good last year before he got injured. And Penix has some pretty good weapons out there. They brought back a decent amount of the receiving core, and the receiving core last year was very good. So I think that Penix should have some success. Having said that, you can usually pencil in 1 to 2 really stupid interceptions in pretty much every game that Penix plays in. Is that a fair assessment?
He definitely makes some questionable decisions, yes.
Now, the question that I do have with Indiana, which is on the defensive end, Jamar Johnson was a guy who I loved in college in that secondary, and he reminded me a lot of Winfield Jr. from Minnesota, who I thought would be really good, and then he turned out to win a Super Bowl, and he's one of the best safeties in the league already in about his second or third year. I'm not saying Johnson's as good, but I think he's an impact player. He's the kind of guy who's a ball hawk safety who knows exactly where to be at every situation. And I think him being out for Indiana because he went to the NFL, of course, I think is going to hurt Indiana's defense more than people think. Plus, do you really want to fade Iowa and Kinnick? Do you really want to?
I mean, when they stop and they all salute the sick kids up above how can you root against that team, Scott? What are you, a monster?
It's not a matter of rooting against. The question is that, of course, Iowa's very, very good at home, and that's one of the best that's one of the best just gestures in general in all of sports. But I'm actually going to take the points with Indiana. I kind of just tried to reel you in for the bait and switch. I like the points with Indiana. I think that Iowa might win the game, but once again, it's a very low total. I see this game being around 23-20. I think it's a one-possession game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. And if I think that's going to be the case, I'll take the points.
I just am not impressed with this Indiana defense. I think at the end of the day, the Iowa offensive line that has some size, I think they just wear this Indiana defense down. They don't really do anything well. They don't stop the run. They're not really good at passing. They lost their sack leader from last season. I'll go the other way. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes in the over 46.
I think you can make an argument either way. I guess the one thing that I'm really kind of against Iowa with is I know I mentioned Penix making some dumb choices. Are you a fan of Petrus as the quarterback for Iowa? Because I don't think he's that good.
No, he's definitely got to take. He's definitely has to take a step up. I'm hoping that he's going to turn into kind of a system guy.
Okay.
And be able to play within himself and whatever other platitudes I can think of. But yeah, I'd rather have Michael Penix, but I don't like this Indiana defense.
That's fair. That's why I'm looking at the points. I just think you can make an argument that both teams have quarterbacks that don't exactly make the best decisions that you can make. Shout out to Bachmeier on that interception yesterday, by the way, against UCF, which is one of the worst passes I've seen all year. But looking at the actual matchup, I think it's a close game. Once again, am I going to bet on this game? No, but I'll watch it. I think it's going to be close, so hold my nose, take the points.
Hey, that reminds me, and we'll probably talk about it again before we do our picks, but there's a site out there that ranks like all the handicappers from social media or whatever, how many of them they have the stomach to do. If you are some reason thinking about going through and ranking all 50 of these plays, don't do that. A lot of them are leans. They're not our best plays. We've committed to giving an opinion on every game. A lot of them, I'm going to be honest, we're not going to play personally, but we are going to give you our best guess. We will, at the end of the show, give you our 3 best plays for the weekend, and those are the ones, if you want to grade, feel free. All right? Is that about right, Scott?
Works for me.
I mean, I can't believe there's somebody that's actually going through and listening to our video and ranking us on all, 50, really be, 106 plays?
Well,
you and I are doing sides and totals on all 25.
So we're doing a favor to some people out there because, I mean, that's the beauty of the fast forward button if you want to potentially skip through all the rambling.
Well, and we do them in order.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear like our top 10, you could just and then run it out.
Mm-hmm.
Does it always get to you when people are like, you guys talk too long? Like, you have the control. You have all the control about how long we talk. We could talk for an hour or we can talk 30 seconds. It's all up to you.
I have an advantage when it comes to technology because I know how a fast forward button works with the mouse. And some people, don't know what that means. So, yeah, if you think we're rambling on for too long, you can fast forward the video. Hot take, really hot take.
I do a tutorial about once a year where I
Mhm.
actually explain how to do it. All right, Scott. Number 16, LSU going up against UCLA. That is going to be from the Coliseum. And the UCLA Bruins are a 3-point home dog here. 65 is your total. LSU, are they back, baby?
Uh, you mean LSU or UCLA?
LSU.
Okay, because LSU was awful last year. I don't
What I mean,
really
are they
think.
back?
Yeah, I was gonna say they're supposed to be really good. I
Uh-huh.
have my doubts.
Sure.
And the way that I look at it was that people are going to look at LSU and look at the title that they won. Can we just acknowledge that I wouldn't say it was an anomaly how good that team was? That's arguably the best college football team ever.
It
I
was certainly
probably
an anomaly how good Burrows was.
Yeah. So do I really trust the new quarterbacks to step in, or not even new, but I mean Brennan's still there. Do I think he's very good? No. They have a couple other options who I don't think are very good. The question I'm going to ask you, kind of twofold. One, how big of an advantage does UCLA have that it already has a game under its belt?
I think it's big. I think
I,
it.
I think it's big too.
I think it's a big advantage that they've worked out some of the kinks. They've had a chance to take it out on the road a little bit. They know what works, what doesn't. Now, granted, it was against Hawaii, but again, Hawaii, at least a FBS school.
Hmm.
It's not UMass or something. Well, I guess that's never mind. Also an FBS school, just barely. I'm I'm going UCLA here.
I am too. I think they're going to win the game. The one issue I have with UCLA is the fact that since they could run the ball down Hawaii's throats, and you saw how good Charbonnet was with the 3 touchdowns and 6 carries, which is just absurd. I still don't think Thompson Robinson is any good as a quarterback for UCLA, which might be concerning against this LSU defense. But UCLA is at home. That defense, even though it was against Hawaii, we have to keep saying that. I thought they were good.
Yeah.
This team struck me as the type of unit where, regardless of who they're playing against, I made the same statement about NC State yesterday because even when they covered for me, because that was the play that I had, I could just tell NC State's just a good all-around team. I got the same impression from UCLA. I just look at this team, and I think this team should win at least 8 games. I think this team's pretty good.
Yeah, you can watch them do some things, and regardless of who they're playing, you can tell that those are going to be successful plays,
Yeah.
whether it be on offense or defense. Some of the things they're doing, I like where this team is at. I like them at home. I'll take the Bruins in that one as well. You got any thought on the 65?
I'd lean over just because of the fact that UCLA's defense I still think isn't as good as we might think from after week 1, but I still like the overall progress. LSU's defense was a mess last year, and they might get a little bit better because they can't really get much worse, but I'm looking at the over. I know I just mentioned the quarterback issues potentially for both teams, but I think these defenses will give up a couple of big plays. Chip Kelly likes to play fast. That should help the pace. I'm looking at the over, but I feel better about UCLA.
Okay, I agree, and I'm going to go the other way on the total. I
Okay.
like UCLA as a play. I would lean under there, maybe just get a few more stops. Than it doesn't take many stops to keep you under 65.
That's true.
All right, moving down the coast a bit, Scott. San Jose, up the coast rather. San Jose State and USC. USC is at home. They are minus 14. 59.5 is so they're in the Coliseum, by the way. UCLA's in the Rose Bowl, of course. I think I said that wrong. But yeah, USC minus 2 touchdowns and 59.5 is your total. Scott, San Jose State looked really good last week, man. How can you go against San Jose State, buddy?
Not. USC's in a situation where Helton's still there for better or worse. Slovis, of course, is still a Heisman candidate. Is he going to win the Heisman? No, I don't think he's talented enough. But the point is, he has weapons. They lost Amon St. Brown, though, which hurts. But they still have London, so they still have some weapons. The running game is still solid. They got a lot of guys back there. Having said that, I think this is too many points. San Jose State spent the last year and a half surprising people. Starkel's still there. The defense should be good. The issue that you're going to run into and all the talking heads are going to say, well, USC's more talented at every position and they have the recruits. And yes, that's all true. But 14 with a USC team that I know they made the conference title game. They barely beat some pretty underwhelming teams. They barely beat Arizona last year. Are we sure USC is as good as people think? I don't think so. I like the points here.
So are we able to discern anything about San Jose State based on what Southern Utah did yesterday against Arizona State?
Well, I think the main takeaway that you can have is the fact that San Jose State's offense looked better than Arizona State's offense, which you can say it was arguably 1A, 1B, but the point is Starkel is actually a pretty good quarterback, and I think that he can find some holes in USC's defense, which struggled last year. The defense is the calling card for San Jose State. We know that the athletes are better on the outside for USC, so it's kind of a battle from that perspective, but Slovis makes some dumb throws every now and then, and USC with the high-octane offense also just seems extremely disorganized sometimes, where they either go too quickly or they mess up the reads or the protection or some really dumb penalties that usually cause them to stall out a drive. I think San Jose State's going to keep it close. Are they going to win this game? Probably not. But I think USC wins by 10.
That seems legit. That seems about right. And this is, again, I can't stress this enough. We talked about it on the radio show yesterday a little bit. But the 2 touchdowns that Southern Utah put up on San Jose State, one was a fumbled punt that gave them fantastic field possession. The other one was a pick six that was about 12 yards out, just an awful throw by Starkel. So they didn't really give up anything as far as legitimate points go to Southern Utah. This is a good defensive unit. You said it right. I like Starkel. Maybe I'm just being contrarian. I'm not buying the hype with Slovis yet.
I just said the same thing, so you're not being contrarian. I said I think
no,
Slovis is good.
Not,
I just
not
don't think he's
to
as
you.
good.
I mean, just to the nation in general. We're pounded by talking heads telling us that he's a Heisman Trophy candidate, and
it's solely because of the fact he plays for a Graham Harrell-led offense where you expect him to go no huddle, air raid, and they try somewhat, but Slovis has proven at times he's just not good enough to put up those numbers. I don't know if it's the matter of his just read progressions or whether it's his lack of proper arm strength, but I just watch him play for about a year or two. Something seems a little bit off.
He also doesn't seem to be getting a lot better.
No, he seems like the same guy.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be a lot of improvement from when he was a true freshman to now. So I'm gonna play San Jose State as well, and I'll play the under 59.5. I think the San Jose State defense is going to have a little more for USC than they're anticipating.
I think if you want to do a correlated parlay, you could, because I think if USC is going to cover this game, it's probably going over, because that means USC is probably scoring 40-something plus points.
Agreed.
But if you think that this turns into a very close nail biter, I see like 31-20, something like that.
Yep, that's legit. Yeah, I think you've got 2 correlated parlay possibilities there, depending on which side you like. Just like you said, you like San Jose State in the points, you play the under. You like USC, you take the over.
Yep.
Florida, the 13th ranked team in the country, they are at home against FAU. The Gators minus 23.5, 52.5 is your total. Scott, this FAU team, it was one of those teams that were kind of hard to get a handle on last year. They were you wanted to think they were good, and about the time you think they were good, they ended up taking a gigantic step backwards. So what do we got this year with the Owls?
Well, I was going to say Florida Atlantic's a team that was actually a bit easy to get a handle on, but it was hard to bet them because you knew the offense stunk and the defense was really good. So you knew what to expect week in, week out. The only question was the offense going to somehow generate 4 touchdowns? That's basically the question.
You knew what to expect total-wise.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whether they were going to cover the number. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. They were impossible to bet, but you knew what to expect going in.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that again, they beat UTSA, and then they lose to Southern Miss by 2 touchdowns. So I don't know exactly what was going on with this team.
It should be a little bit better offensively this year because they did pick up a couple of transfers for quarterback. That was the main issue. They brought in N'Kosi Perry from Miami, who I actually saw live. He played against Pittsburgh in the one game that I went to at the Hard Rock Stadium. Very nice, by the way. But he was not very good in that game. And if you watched him at Miami, he's mobile. He can run. Is he accurate? Absolutely not. He's an extremely inaccurate passer, but that's also in the ACC. Now he's moving to a much weaker conference in the Conference USA. I think he'll play pretty well this season. Having said that, he's against Florida in this game. And I actually wrote an article about this game a couple of days ago for Winners and Winers, or for StatSalt, actually. I'm not sure which one it got published to. I might have actually flip-flopped since I wrote that article. I originally liked the points with Florida Atlantic. The more that I thought about it, the more I actually liked Florida. It's the first game that Florida's playing with a packed crowd, a sellout crowd basically, at home in about a year and a half. I got to assume they're going to try to put on a show, don't you think?
Are you worried about replacing Trask?
Actually, no. I think that Emory's actually just a good quarterback. I think Emory Jones is good. He can run. I think that he can throw. Then again, you were higher on Trask than I was. I'm more concerned about replacing Pitts and Tony from the wide receiver group than the quarterbacks. But I actually like Emory Jones. I think he's good. The question that I have is Florida's defense, because you lost a couple of big pieces. You lost the shoe thrower in Wilson, who was very good last year, despite the really dumb play against LSU. But the more that I thought about it, I think 23.5 is a little bit too low. Perry might develop into a good quarterback in this system, but I think he'll struggle week one, especially since Florida should dominate the trenches on both sides. I think Florida probably wins going away. I think worst case is Florida wins by 24. So I flip-flopped on my article, but I'm going to go with Florida minus the points. You?
Yeah, to me, I can't get that picture of what Florida looked like without all their stars when they played Oklahoma. Now, obviously, there is a sliver of difference between FAU and Oklahoma. I do realize that, but this Florida team looked completely lost, and that was a team that still had Trask, by the way. Trask played, nobody else did.
For the record, I know where you're going with this. I threw that game immediately in the garbage because you have to keep in mind they were also using basically walk-ons at wide receiver. They got some transfers, they got some recruits. It's not the same exact skill position core they had last year where you're missing about 5 guys and you can't sign people off the street.
I understand that, but you also can't use last year as a barometer to say, well, they did this last year, they did that last year, because it's an entirely new group.
The barometer that I have is Dan Mullen's offense, and I think that Jones can fit well into that offense.
I just think at the end of the day with the FAU defense, I think 23.5 is too many. I think you've got another correlated parlay situation here if you want to do it. I understand why you go back and forth on this, because on one hand, I don't think Florida is going to score enough to get to a number that would normally cover 24. On the other hand, the FAU offense is dreadful. I think Perry's going to make a difference.
I think he will at some point in the season, which is why I kind of originally liked FAU. But truth is, once I actually learned a bit more about the crowd and how they're going to be in Gainesville in the swamp with a full crowd for the first time in about a year and a half, I got to assume, I don't know if it's going to provide a spark or motivation to kill this team. I think they might be more reluctant to call off the dogs as quickly as you might in another situation.
What surprised you about that? Did you not know that they played empty stadiums last year?
Well, they played at limited capacities because Florida had some games. Of course, you had a couple of games during COVID. I believe it was A&M that had a sold-out stadium. So some teams in the South, I don't want to say didn't care, but they kind of still ended up going ahead. Florida, I believe, had about 25% capacity last year. I thought it was more. I thought it was around 50 or so, but I got reminded of that when I was doing the research, and I kind of thought that they might take it easy. I don't think they're taking it easy with the home crowd going nuts in the swamp. So I think Florida probably wins this game 35-10, give or take. Do I think Florida Atlantic's going to score more than 10 points in this game? I don't know, so I can't take the points.
So what? Okay, so we got 52.5, 23.5. So the total is going to be somewhere around what, 38 to 14? Is that in that neighborhood? So basically, your team total FAU going to be 2 touchdowns,
give or take.
Yeah.
I can't see them reaching that total.
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah. I got them maxed out about 17.
Okay.
On Wisconsin, buddy.
Big game.
They still play that?
They play pretty much every tune you could think of at Wisconsin games.
Fair enough. Jump around. Please tell me they play jump around.
Of course. You're probably going to hear it on TV right when the fourth quarter starts.
It's the big deal. Can you feel the stadium shaking when you do it?
It's crazier when you're in the press box. When you're in the press box, you can actually feel the entire box vibrating because of the crowd.
That's pretty nice drop there, buddy. When I'm in the press box in the Big Ten game.
It feels pretty good until you think the building might collapse, but that's kind of the problem there. But no, it was a very cool atmosphere that I went to a lot of games because
They have a spread. They have a spread in the press box. A little spread.
Yes, they did actually. They would have some hot dogs. What they have, like pretzels, some chips, some stuff like that.
Cool. All right. Very good. All right. So they're going to entertain Penn State there at Camp Randall. Wisconsin ranked 12th. Penn State ranked 19th. The Badgers are 5.5-point favorites. 50 is the total, sir. Take it away.
For this one,
Wait. Do you own a pair of those overalls? Did we talk about this?
I do not own a pair of overalls.
And at any point, did you have red striped overalls that you wore?
I don't have enough confidence to wear one of those in public.
Okay, because you got to have real confidence to wear them and then to leave one side undone.
Especially when you get into the colder months where it's about 30 degrees max for about half the football season. No, I didn't own a pair of overalls.
Okay, good enough. All right, bud. How do you see this one going?
I like Wisconsin.
Okay, good enough.
Now, Graham Mertz, of course, is a huge question mark because if you watched him last year, he was good for about a game and a half, and then everything fell apart in conference play. However, Penn State was really a team of two different halves last year because the first half they were awful. Then they won a couple of games in a row. The offense was good. The defense stunk. Do I think the defense is going to be any good? No, because I think the linebacking core for Penn State is, let's just say, a work in progress. It's not very good. They're very inexperienced at the linebacker position. And Wisconsin, we know no matter which guys leave and which guys come back, the offensive line is always really, really good. It's the case with them. It's the case with Iowa, usually Notre Dame. You have a couple of teams in there that always have really good offensive lines no matter what, and this year shouldn't be any different. Wisconsin's defense should be good. They brought back Jim Leonard as defensive coordinator, who for some reason hasn't gotten a head coaching job yet or just hasn't taken one yet. I'm not sure why. He's clearly good enough for that role. But the defense, I think, will do well. I think the offense with the crowd behind him at Camp Randall should provide a spark. And Mertz, I think, with a full off season of prep for this Penn State game, I think could look pretty sharp through, I'd say, smoke and mirrors. I think it'll be a close game. I think that Penn State might have some moments, but I really am not a fan of Clifford at quarterback. I think he just makes way too many mistakes in the pocket. He's also just the kind of guy who I don't exactly trust to win big games. Maybe that's just because I don't remember him winning many big games during his time as starting quarterback. But I think it'll be close. I think Wisconsin does enough up front. I think they'll win by 7. So I'll take Wisconsin. You?
Yeah, I think that's right. I just have no confidence in this Penn State offense. They were, like you said, they finished pretty well, Scott. I guess their signature win was really Michigan. I mean,
yes, they beat Michigan. They put up about 95 on Illinois.
Right.
That doesn't do anything for me.
No, they beat their 4-game streak was Michigan, Rutgers, Michigan State, and Illinois.
Yeah, that's a pretty weak schedule right there.
Excuse me if my enthusiasm is tempered just a little bit. And a quick reminder: this is a team that lost by 16 at home against Maryland, and they lost to Nebraska. I want no part of this Penn State squad.
Are you as low on Clifford as I am? Because I've seen him for a couple of years, and I don't really know why you haven't tried to go in a different direction.
Clifford, the big red slog. Yes,
I don't think he's very good.
No bueno there at all. I'm going to go all in on this Wisconsin team. Give me the Wisconsin Badgers minus 5.5 and the under 50.
I like the receiving core with Dotson and company, but they also lost Freiermuth. It was one of the best tight ends in the country last year, so I think that's going to hurt. I'm looking at the under. Am I thrilled with it? No. I think that this line is probably where it should be. I'm going to lean Wisconsin. And for the total, since it's Wisconsin, I kind of have to lean under, don't I?
Right, you do. Yeah, you've got a great defense and a team with no offense.
I see 27-20.
Okay. All right. I'm thinking, maybe 24-10, 24-17, something like that. At 8, Oregon hosting Fresno State, another team we saw in action last week, and we'll try our best not to overreact. Who'd Fresno State play?
They killed UConn.
UConn. Oh, that's right. The terriblest of terrible team. 45-zip, right? 44 zip.
45, whatever. UConn can play another 10 quarters. They're not going to score against Fresno.
Oregon, 20.5-point dogs. 64 is your total.
Favorites, you mean?
or dog,
Yeah.
favorites. 64 is the total. You're getting that half point there. You're getting the hook from 21 if you like Oregon, buddy. Are you gonna duck and cover here?
I see what you did there. I'm really torn because Fresno did play the game, so you already know that they should be a little bit more comfortable because they already are up to game speed. Then again, they played UConn, so I don't know what game speed is in consideration when you compare UConn to Oregon. So I still think there might be a little bit of a shock and awe moment where Fresno realizes, wow, this team can actually complete a pass. So I'm curious if that's going to be, a bit of a learning curve there for Fresno. I'm going to go with Oregon. Am I thrilled with it? No, as a common theme for this video right here. But 20.5, I think Oregon wins by at least 3 touchdowns. Anthony Brown might get injured at some point during the year, but it's week 1, so he should stay healthy for 4 quarters. Meanwhile, the defense, that defensive line with Thibodeau is so damn good. That defense, linebacking core, secondary, that's just a really great defensive unit. Top to bottom, top 10 defense in the country. And if Brown can get the ball to Reed, get the ball in the backfield to Verdell, and I think that they'll find a way to score at least 30-something points, I don't think Fresno's defense is that good. No offense to them for shutting out UConn. The two of us might be able to shut down UConn if we were on a team, but I think Oregon wins at home, makes a statement. It might get ugly, but I'll be generous. I'll go 42-20. I think Oregon covers, though. You?
I am going to go the other way.
Okay, fair enough.
I will also play the under. I'm going to take Fresno State plus the 20.5. I like having that game under their belt. Oregon is a team that sometimes has the ability to play down to the level of their competition, regardless of how good they are. And I think the first game of the season is an excellent opportunity for that. I'll take the Fresno State Bulldoggies.
Well, actually, one thing that you want to keep in mind, which actually might cause me to reconsider my stance on the spread, is the look-ahead spot, which I feel like always goes understated when you're talking about teams. I really thought Oregon would kill this team, and then I realized they play Ohio State next week. I suddenly like Fresno plus the points.
Okay.
You got to keep in mind scheduling. I forgot that I thought they might have had a bye week in between, but they don't. I think if you're thinking it's going to be close like I did, like it would be 22, do you think the team is already looking a little bit ahead to arguably the biggest game of the season up next instead of focusing on an out-of-conference Fresno State team? Because I do.
Yeah. Yes. No, so, in spite of what the coaches will tell you, they've worked on all week long.
So I renege on my Oregon lean. I'll look to Fresno.
So now you got these guys watching our videos that are scratching and going, God.
They're scratching on our leans. Damn it, I got to keep track of. Yeah, no, it's once again, all these picks, we're just giving them out for leans, but look-ahead spots are important. Keep that in mind. I do think they're definitely looking ahead to Ohio State next week.
All right, Scott. Well, like a bad penny, Jack Cohn returns as Notre Dame takes on Florida State. Oh, man.
That's also a Monday game, so keep that in mind. Is that a Sunday game?
That is the Sunday night game. That's
Sunday night? Okay.
I believe. Let me double check that, but you can give me your thoughts as I verify that.
It is Sunday night. It's
Sunday.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot. What is that? Super Slam? Is that the Super Slam intro there?
No, it's more like it's a drag racing.
Oh, I thought you were going for like
race fans.
I thought you were going for like an order WWE pay-per-view like Super Slam, like only $35.99.
That's a good one too.
I thought that's what you were going for. But anyway, for this one, Notre Dame, of course, is the better team. Now we mentioned this team for win totals when we did the independents. It's 8.5 for win totals, and this team's a top 10 team in the country. So the polls aren't exactly up to date on what the realistic expectations are for this Notre Dame team. Having said that, Florida State stunk last year. Norvell's been a mess since he got there. They bring in Milton as the quarterback. Now, Florida State has a couple of options, so we'll see if maybe they go by committee behind center. But I guess the question that I have to ask for you, it's a Sunday night game in Tallahassee. It's going to be a Bobby Bowden tribute game. Emotions are going to be running high in Tallahassee. Do you think that provides any spark for Florida State, or do you think Notre Dame just buries this team?
Both. I think
Okay.
it provides some spark, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can turn a program around in a year to get at the Notre Dame's level. I'm not real high on the Irish this year. I'm not sure they're a top 10 team
They're not.
at the end of the season, but I think they're going to be good enough for Florida State. If you wanted to flirt with playing Florida State in the first half, as you get a little Bobby Bowden carry over there, and they throw the arrow at the 50-yard line, then you could certainly, or the spear rather, could certainly do that. But for the full game, I think the Notre Dame talent on both sides of the ball will ultimately prevail here.
I agree. At the end of the day, I mentioned it before, when it comes to great offensive lines, Notre Dame every year has a great offensive line. Florida State, usually it's pretty good athletes. That didn't really translate into a pass rush last year. Their defense was a mess. I think Notre Dame can probably run for 250-plus yards, maybe even 300 if they really want to rub it in. I was throwing in the Bowden stuff because I'm sure a lot of people are looking for an emotional angle from Florida State, and I do think that'll play a factor early on. But Notre Dame, top to bottom, just a solid overall team. And as much as I'm rooting for Milton, because it's a great story and I loved him at Central Florida, are we sure that he's going to look anywhere near the same guy that he once was? Because the answer is obviously no.
3 years?
About 2-3 years, yeah. It's been a long time.
He got hurt at the end of 18, right?
I believe so, yeah. Scott Frost was still the head coach when he got injured.
Right, and he did not play, of course, last year because of the pandemic, but I think 19 was the year he actually sat out as well. So
he didn't, because Gabriel showed up and then Mac took over for a little bit. So, yeah, I'm not exactly going to buy into it. I hope he does well, but if I don't exactly know how good Florida State's quarterback's going to be, Cohen might not be great, but he's okay enough to not embarrass himself out there. I think if he just does a good job game managing, Notre Dame can coast to a 10-point win.
I think this is a game that's going to try to feature the Notre Dame running game. I'm going to say it stays with a total of 56. I don't know how much Florida State does on offense at all.
Okay.
All right, Scott. Another questionable top 10 team. We'll see. It's the Cincinnati Bearcats. They host the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. Cincinnati minus 23, 50.5 is your total. Cincinnati has kind of owned this series, my friend. They have beat Miami 14 times in a row. Last time Miami snuck through was 2005. Of course, this is maybe arguably the best Cincinnati team ever. I think we could say that.
You have a good argument.
Okay. So how does this one go? Is this Redhawks team, they're not nothing.
They're okay. My prediction for this game is Cincinnati via pain and suffering, followed by a fourth quarter KO. I think at the end of the day, Miami might hang around for a couple of blows early, but I'm going to keep doing boxing UFC analogies here. They're going to get smacked. I don't really know what you want me to tell you. I mean, Cincinnati's a team that actually has expectations. They know that they not only need to beat out-of-conference teams, but they need to murder out-of-conference teams because the committee will always hold something against the non-Power Fives. Cincinnati has all the incentives to run up the score on this team, to try to make a statement. I almost put this as one of my 3 plays at the end. I decided not to, but I think Cincinnati wins probably by 4 touchdowns minimum. I'm going to go ahead and take Cincinnati.
So are you saying you're not a believer in Brett Gabbert?
I'm saying Gabbert had a decent run to, I believe, the MAC title 2 years ago, but he's not very talented, no. I don't think he's very good.
And you know this is a Miami team that led the nation in sacks last year.
Good for them. Did they play Cincinnati last year?
Checking my schedule, I believe they did.
I believe that Miami only – do they have any out-of-conference games last year, Miami? I think they only played the MAC, right?
They did. All the MAC teams just played MAC teams.
That's what I thought. So I'm not just going to say you can throw that out, but you can kind of throw that out because you're playing an actual team with an actual offensive line. You know, the stacks are good stats for last year, but Ritter's mobile. The ground game should still be good. The receivers are pretty good. And you know Fickle's going to be all over that defense to make sure it's in tip-top shape. Are we sure Miami's going to score a touchdown in this game?
Yes, they will score a touchdown.
Okay, I'm just saying, are we sure? I don't know.
Sure.
Are they going to score 2 touchdowns? Probably not. So I think if Cincinnati gets to 30 or 35, they should cover. I'll take Cincinnati.
Okay. All right. I'll take the Bearcats too. I think they pull away late. And you did bring up a great point about the Bearcats, and you're going to see it with with Coastal Carolina as well. And you saw it in action last night as these teams, they can't take their foot off the gas. Now, they can say, well, margin of victory doesn't matter. Well, that's not true, because I guarantee you that you look at this Cincinnati team differently if they beat Miami by 3 or if they beat them by 30.
Especially in the committee's eyes.
Absolutely. And the people that vote, the AP, the coaches poll, that all makes a difference. So you can say it, well, they don't factor it into the computer anymore. Okay, that's true. But the eye test, the people that are voting that make up a huge chunk of the percentage of who gets into the playoffs, yes, that it absolutely matters. Iowa State hosting Northern Iowa up there in Ames. Scott, only 5 dimes has a number on this right now, and it's Northern Iowa as a 32-point dog, and the total is 50 right here. So, what do you think about this series?
I have a rant about this overall game. I was going to pick this as one of my 3 plays originally. And when I started trying to find a line, the only book I found was either 5 dimes, which isn't exactly legal in the States anymore, and you also have my local bookie who had a line on it. So I was looking for the line, and I saw 38. And I thought, take the points. Northern Iowa, they've been close in the series before. I'll take the points with the Panthers. And then as I'm writing down the prediction, DraftKings releases a line, 29.5. So you know what I did? I threw my prediction in the garbage. I'm passing. If I was going to take it, I'd lean points, but I really wanted the key number of 35. I really wanted it. Now I don't have it. I don't really have many thoughts here. I'll lean under.
Wow. So you're just going to kind of pout about it and not make a pick?
I'm 100% pout about it because I mentioned it when it came to line chasing. We mentioned this in the video or the radio show yesterday. At some point, you got to learn when to let go. I think 35 was the key number I wanted. It not only crossed over 35, but it also crossed over 31 when it got to 29. Now I believe you said it went back to 32, correct?
Well, that's what 5 dimes said. Like I said, I don't have it listed on my grid under DraftKings at all.
I saw DraftKings did have a line. I'll pull that up quickly, but I'm going to look at the under. That's the reason why I liked the points with Northern Iowa. I know that Iowa State is going to be wary of the upset because they went to that multiple overtime game against Northern Iowa in the last meeting, but I think we would agree Iowa State's just going to win the game. They're going to end up coasting, and since they're already a top 10 team and they play in an actual Power 5 conference, they don't really need to win this game by 90 points. I think Iowa State calls off the dogs. I think you'll see this Iowa State team use its defense, use its quality running game with Hall. I still see 29.5 on DraftKings, so I'm going to use that as a line. I'm going to go ahead and just take the under. I think you'll see I'd say a 40-10 game, 38-10, something like that. I'm going to go with the under.
Okay, I'm going to take Northern Iowa plus 32.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know what lines even exist.
Right.
I found 38 earlier, and I'm like, all right, give me a breakdown. It just goes DraftKings 29.5. I threw my prediction in the garbage.
And it's bizarre because it's not like there's any questions about who's starting, or I don't understand.
I have an even worse one coming up, by the way. I have an even worse story when it comes to line changing mid-prediction, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, for this one,
weird things happen in this series. Weird things happen when these Iowa teams play each other. The talent disparity doesn't really seem to matter for whatever reason. It could be Iowa State when they're terrible playing a great Iowa team, Northern Iowa playing Iowa State. When these 3 teams get together in whatever mix, funky things happen. No way am I laying 30+ points with Iowa State. Love Iowa State. Think they have a real chance of making the playoffs. I'll take Northern Iowa plus the 32 here, and I'll also take the over.
If it was 38, it would be one of the 3 plays. And that I found about a 10-point difference. I passed.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Again, Northern Iowa team brings back all 22 starters, number 21st ranked team in FCS. Got a big-time linebacker there, Mike Rose, does Iowa State, so we're going to have to avoid him. But you know what? I think they can do it. So
I also want to do a quick rant. I'm not going to take too long because I know we're already at like the 50-minute mark. But you have had about 4 months to prepare lines on these games. DraftKings is the only book that I saw that put up a line. 5 dimes doing their own thing after, they've had their whole controversy, whatever. But can any of you other books, Fox Bet, FanDuel, BetMGM. Can you at least throw a line up there? Put a low limit. Do something. You've had 4 months. Can you put a line up there? Like, what are you waiting for? The game's
He ain't
tomorrow.
wrong. He ain't wrong. The look-ahead line on this was 33.5, by the way.
Just put the line up. The game's tomorrow. What are you waiting for?
I know. It's, coming from the casino business, it is just almost laughable how paranoid they are about any kind of opportunity to not win.
Set the limit at $200. I don't even care. Just throw a line up there. Do something.
Yeah. It's, again, not that difficult.
So, yeah, that was my brief rant, but I feel like it was warranted.
Texas A&M down there in College Station, Scott, they're bringing in the Kent State Golden Flashes, baby. 29.5 is the number here. A&M's the favorite, by the way. And 67 is the total. My friend, I'm a sucker for these MAC teams. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, Kent State was one of my favorite teams last year.
Loved them. Nobody put up more yards or points than Kent State. Would that have been the average person's guess for who led the nation in offense last year?
Crum, very, very underrated quarterback.
Now, in fairness, I will point out on the other side that they only played 4 games in the MAC conference. 2 of the 4 games, Scott, they hung a half a hundo on Akron and Bowling Green.
But how'd they do defensively against Patterson and Buffalo?
They didn't do that well. They did not do that well. I believe they gave up 10 touchdowns.
I still can't believe they pulled Patterson when he was 20 yards away from the all-time record for rushing yards.
Don't understand it. I just don't. Yes, they lost that game 70-41. So
Yep.
maybe we buried the lead that they still put up 41 on Buffalo.
I like the over.
I gotta like the over a lot here, man. It is 67. This was a defense that was not good at all. They give up 38 points a game, a ton of rushing yards. I like Crum. He's a good quarterback. 10.5 yards per attempt. They've got all 5 offensive linemen coming back. Of course, the Aggies, they've got some holes to fill. None bigger than Kellen Mond, Scott. So my real play I really like is the over 67. I'm with you there. I'm going to take the Golden Flashes plus 29.5. It's the flash fast offense, baby. How can I resist?
I have a hard time taking laying the points with A&M because they bring in another freshman quarterback to take over for Mond. You got King back there, who might be good. He might not be. But Mond, even if he's not a great player, he at least gave you stability at the position where you knew what you were going to expect. King can explode, and in that case, you like the over. Even if King is awful, I still like the over just because I think Kent State could actually score a couple touchdowns. They should score a couple touchdowns. And A&M, if they just blindly run the ball behind that offensive line with Spiller, they could probably score 50 to 60 points if they wanted to.
Could be ugly. It could absolutely be ugly, no question.
And Spiller is a tremendous running back for the record.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just looking at
I'm looking at the over.
Looking like the team totals here should be around 49-19, somewhere in that neighborhood. 48.5, 19.5.
I think Kent State gets to 21.
I do too. I do too. I agree. Give me the over there. All right, buddy. Now we're getting into the nitty and the gritty, and we're going to take a look at the number 3 team in the nation going against the number 5 team in the nation. That is the Clemson Tigers going against the Georgia Bulldogs. This is in a neutral site there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Clemson 3-point favorite, 51 is your total. Scott, are you a believer in JT Daniels and the Georgia Bulldogs?
I believe in him more than the other guys Georgia tried throwing out there last year.
That's
some really bad options.
You don't like the guy named after a hat?
No, not at all. He was bad.
How about Beret Johnson?
I'll tell you what, though. JT Daniels, after he ended up – I thought he was decent at USC before the injury. Then they weren't sure when he was going to come back. He actually looked pretty good the last couple of games of the season.
Dogs averaged 8.3 points per game more with Bennett or with Daniels in the helm than they did Bennett.
Yeah, because Bennett stunk, so that doesn't surprise me. But it's really a tough spot, obviously, when you have 2 top 5 teams going at it. My hot take, if you remember, was Georgia winning the SEC. That was my really hot take during the actual breakdowns, which I was half peer pressured into. But either way, I digress. Clemson, I really, really like Ugalele. He was my preseason favorite pick to win the Heisman. I think that he's very good. But
we're pronouncing that name wrong.
It's not Ugalele?
No, it's Ugalele or something. It's weird. The accent is different than you and I have been saying it.
Okay, well, either way, I'll research that for the future. But I'm going to call him Ugalele for now because that's how I remember the name.
Right.
He's very good. You know that Ross is still a very good receiver. He's back. The ground game should be a lot weaker because you ended up losing ETN. Clemson's defense last year, can we call them okay but very overrated?
Yeah, I think when they played good teams, they struggled. It's hard to get a read on this Clemson team because 9 or 10 of their games they play against crap, against nothing. So
and Georgia's tricky because they lost a decent portion of their secondary from last year.
Right.
So It's a really tough call. I'm actually going to lean to Georgia plus the points. Maybe I just think Georgia gets over the hump this year. I'm not really sure why, but I actually like Daniels at quarterback. I actually think they have some weapons. I am concerned, though, that Pickens, of course, Pickens, I think, is the receiver who tore his ACL in spring drills.
Yep.
That's Pickens?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, anyway, making sure. That hurts the receiving core. The ground game should still be really good. I think this game's going to be a war. I think it's a nail-biter, so I'll take the points. But if you take Clemson, I wouldn't really hate that pick either.
So Georgia's 9-5 straight up against top 10 teams under Kirby Smart, but they're just 2-4 against top 5 teams, and they've lost 4 straight against top 5.
Wait, so question though: 2-4 against top 5 teams. Mm-hmm. What is that? Bama 4 times and LSU once?
See, that's the thing. You're just playing a couple teams there. You're playing Alabama. You're playing LSU.
LSU that 1 year where they were arguably the best team of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Auburn mixed in there 3 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like, can I really blame Georgia for losing to a top 5 team of all time in LSU and arguably a top 5 team of all time last year with Bama? Not really.
Agreed. And I was going to say all that just to say this, that I'm going to lean with you and take Georgia plus the 3 points. I agree. I think it's going to be a close game. If I were listeners or viewers, I would be very worried by the fact you and I agree on this one. But
I would honestly sit back and enjoy the game. I'm not betting it, but I'll have a good time watching it.
Give me the under 51. This is a really tough game to call. I'm gonna lean Georgia plus 3 and an even smaller lean on the under 51.
So we're actually going to disagree on the total here. I like the over. Just looking at the overall teams, both quarterbacks I like. I think Daniels and Ugalele, or however else you want to pronounce it, I do think they're both good. The defense, I mentioned Georgia's questions in the secondary. We already talked about how Clemson's defense was overrated last year. If I have questions about the defenses and I like both quarterbacks, that sounds to me like it's going to be a 28-24 game, 28-27 game. I just think it's going to get into the mid-50s. I like the over.
Okay. Oklahoma in a game that was originally scheduled as an away game. The state of Louisiana cannot catch a break as they take on Tulane. This had to be moved from New Orleans to Norman. Great. Oklahoma 31.5 point favorite. 67.5 is your total. Oh, Scott, this Tulane team likes to run the football. They like to take the air out of the ball. But they brought Chip Long in, who was a offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, to kind of diversify a little bit. I get, this is another team that I get suckered in. I watch them play and they go, oh, this is a pretty good Tulane team. And then they just go out and get buried. They are not good against non-conference Power 5 schools. They're 2-8 ATS their last 10. And new defensive coordinator this season. This was a team that had their moments. They put up 24 on Tulsa. They put up 38 on Memphis. OU, Scott, lost 6 scholarship running backs from last year's team. Is that pretty incredible?
That's crazy. I'm sure it's going to matter when Oklahoma throws for 7 touchdown passes.
Yeah, and there's a great nugget that I wanted to use because Oklahoma's 2-8 against the spread. Last 10 road favorites greater than 14 points or greater. But now it's a home game, so boo. Last year, his defense, they were one of only 19 FBS teams to give up fewer than 5.2 yards.
I was going to say, I feel like the writing's on the wall here. You have a game that's supposed to be relatively local.
Yep.
Now you have to go to Norman.
Yep.
You're going to get their brains beaten then. I mean,
Norman,
I got to assume that Oklahoma is going to score 50 plus.
Oklahoma under.
Okay. I do agree with me. I don't know how you can like Tulane expecting a game that's going to be relatively close. Now they have to go on the road for a true makeshift road game against a quarterback who's clearly going to try to put together a huge Heisman day.
And you know that they got kids on that team that have family in Louisiana that are suffering and that don't have powers. You know they've got other things to worry about as well.
I think that they're going to get absolutely buried.
You see 51-10.
And the way that I look at it, Tulane was good at quarterback for about 1 year when they had McMillan. They tried Pratt last year, who was a mess. Now they got Keon Howard at quarterback. I don't think he's any good. I think Oklahoma's going to bury this team.
I love McMillan. I love that.
Yeah, he was great. He's just not there anymore.
I understand. Yeah.
So
they all move out, Scott. They all move on. The kid's got to go. And that leaves us to the last game. Number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the Miami Hurricanes, Scott, the 14th ranked Hurricane. Bama, 19.5-point favorite. Total on this game is 61. You know, to me, this start and stops with this first stat. Miami gave up 174.5 rushing yards per contest last fall. You think, well, that is not good. Well, I'll tell you, it gets worse because
give me the North Carolina rushing stats.
They gave up 314 yards per matchup against ranked teams.
What I forgot what North Carolina had. 500 rushing yards?
500. 5+, yes. They did.
That's not good.
Now, Alabama has to replace Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, Alex Leatherwood, Dickerson, Waddle, Patrick Surtain. Do you care?
No.
You care at all?
I don't care at all.
No.
It's a tricky spot where Miami, once again, if you think it's close, bet the first half. If you think the Hard Rock crowd gives them something. But De'Ara King's a very mobile quarterback. We watched him last year, and he's off an ACL injury. I know ACL injuries aren't the same as they used to be because of modern medicine and surgery and stuff like that. But when you're a mobile quarterback and you're not exactly the most accurate throwing the ball, even if you lose a step when it comes to running, that's a huge blow for this Miami offense because King did basically everything for this team offensively. Goes back to my point with Manny Diaz. Has he ever won a really big game? They beat Notre Dame in the first game of the season like 4 years ago, and Notre Dame turned out to be, I believe, underwhelming that year. I don't think Miami's actually won a game against a high-profile team in a while. There's a reason why Miami's the home team and still underdogs by about 3 touchdowns. I got to assume Bryce Young puts together a good performance. I think Alabama's defense is going to look pretty good. I kind of like the over. If you think Bama's going to be struggling defensively, replacing some guys, and we know Miami's defense, no matter what they do, is going to be terrible. Well, I think you might be looking at an over because Bama might score 45. But I'm looking at the over, and I'm looking at Alabama.
Quick reminder, this is a Miami team that lost to Clemson 42-17 last year and then lost to North Carolina in a truly dreadful game, 62-26. So
you can pencil in Bama for about 45.
I just don't see how they get away from it. I don't. I like Bama. I'm with you. I've got Bama minus the points and the over 61.
Yep, I agree.
All right, buddy. Well, that's it. That's our first top 20 breakdown, top 25 breakdown.
Well, is that an hour?
Hour and 3 minutes. Not bad.
Okay.
Only one thing left here, and that is to lay out our 3 picks. You and I are going to go at it college, and we're going to go at it in the pros too. We can bring our favorite 3 picks to the table each week. Kind of bet our own little farm. It's bet the garden, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Bet the individual gardens.
All right, and I even did a special little drop for this. So without further ado, here it is. This is our favorite plays of the week. Get ready for our 5,000-star whale play. Fade the public shark's 1 million unit lock of the century.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Fantastic.
All right, I will let you go first. You are the loser's walk. So
thank you.
You are the you got blasted last year, as I just annihilated and dominated you. It won by one game.
One game,
right.
0.5 or whatever.
Give me your first pick, buddy.
So this one, I'm going to warn you on the 3 picks, though. I got pretty obscure with them.
Oh, by the way,
bear with me here.
Okay, before you get rolling, we want your opinion. Scott and I came up with the rule that they had to be fairly legitimate or fairly accessible plays. no quarters or halves.
Timeout. You said no quarters.
No quarters.
After I told you what my plays were.
Well, I also
After.
said
that all came after. Let's be real.
The most obscure I wanted to get.
I'm not trying to cheat you here. Let's be real.
No team total for the halves. You can play team totals. You can play halftime plays. But, of course, you went and made 2 quarter plays.
I'm going to let the audience decide if quarter bets are kosher or not. I'm going to let the audience decide.
Please put it in the comments, yes or no, on quarter plays for our.
Because as far as I know, every main sports book has access to quarters. Even local bookies have access to quarters. Okay. So you should be able to have an option there. But anyway, the first play is going to be an actual full game play between Nebraska and Fordham. I like the over 54.5 at -110 on FanDuel. A couple reasons why I like the over in this spot. First of all, Nebraska, we all know that even though the game was close at the end, they got embarrassed by Illinois on national television. Frost is a coach who's on the hot seat, and I think that we can agree Nebraska, after losing the first game, is going to be really pissed off, and I think that Fordham's going to get the rough end of it. I think Nebraska might even run up the score on this team. They might score 49. They might score 56. They might score 63. It really wouldn't surprise me. Nebraska can run the ball. Fordham should have no answers on the defensive line. I think Nebraska, with the up-tempo style that Frost likes to play, they played a little bit slower last week because they were in some 3rd and longs. I think they'll go up-tempo. I think that Martinez, who's awful against FBS teams, can actually look pretty good against an FCS defense here. And you want to look at the actual Fordham offense. This team can't run the ball, but they do have a very solid quarterback in Tim DeMorat, who was actually the Patriot League's Offensive Player of the Year in the spring. I think Fordham throws it around the parking lot. And if Nebraska lets Artur Sidkowski torch you for about 2 touchdowns and he completed about 80% of his passes, I do think that Fordham can score at least 1 or 2 touchdowns here. Fordham, though, defensively, has faced 4 FBS teams since 2016. 3 of them have scored at least 52 points, and Army, a triple option team that doesn't throw the ball, scored 60-plus points. I think Nebraska can get to 56. I think Fordham should score at least a touchdown. I like the over. I think this line's too low.
Sidkowski, the only thing he should be roasting you in is a pierogi eating contest.
In Rutgers, he had 4 touchdowns and over 16 or 18 interceptions, and he completed 80% of his passes against the secondary. I think Fordham's going to move the ball. I like the over.
All right, Scott. I'm going to take a game that we've already looked at here. I'm going to take the Northern Iowa team total over 9.
Okay.
We're judging that on the total being 32 and the spread being 32 and 50. There's just too much room for this Northern Iowa team. They are a competent offense. Again, they're not a weak team. They should be able to at least put up 2 touchdowns. I think that is too low. Give me the Northern Iowa team total over.
Okay. In the words of my esteemed co-host, I don't hate that. Anyway, looking at the next play, this is where we get into the very, very obscure stuff, but I have a good reason for it. I'm fading a garbage team.
So that was the accessible play there.
That was the accessible play. The Nebraska one I did find. It was on FanDuel. Do you have any thoughts on that total, by the way, with Nebraska Fordham?
I think it's solid.
Yeah, I just think Nebraska can score 56 alone. But anyway, looking at the first quarter play that I like San Diego State first quarter -7 against New Mexico State, and that's -110 on BetMGM. They might be wondering, why would I take the first quarter and not the full game? And I have a reason behind it. The first quarter is 7. The full game spread's 31. Something doesn't add up mathematically there, because I feel like that the full game, if you're talking about a 7-point quarter, should be closer to around 28, maybe to 29. But I do think you're gaining some value with a push draw there in the first quarter -7. New Mexico State, in my opinion, is the worst team in all of FBS. They played UTEP last week, and they trailed to 17-0 after the first quarter. Now, San Diego State has a quarterback in Brookshire who was the quarterback at the end of last year, has some mobility, so I think that he can run. But San Diego State underachieved last year, and really everything hit the fan when star running back Greg Bell got injured. He had about 4 straight games of 100-plus rushing yards, and then he got injured. He's healthy once again. I know for a fact that San Diego State up front should manhandle New Mexico State because UTEP, of all teams, ran for 200-plus yards in that game. And San Diego State's defense finished third in total defense, which is yards allowed last season in the entire country. New Mexico State's not scoring in the first quarter, I can tell you that. And San Diego State, if they run the ball alone, should have at least a couple of big plays. I think they'll be up by at least 10 after the first quarter. Might be up by 20 after the first quarter. I'm taking San Diego State -7 in the first quarter.
Okay.
You have any thoughts?
That was excruciatingly long.
Thank you. I just mean in general. Do you have any thoughts on the play itself? Do you agree that New Mexico State should just get absolutely steamrolled in this game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like the San Diego State defense, I wouldn't be surprised to see New Mexico State get shut out.
New Mexico State, for the record, scored 3 points against UTEP's defense.
Yeah.
So good. Sacks, fumbles, anything. San Diego State, I think, will have at least 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to lay a big number here. I'm going to take a look at Pittsburgh, UMass. I'm going to take first quarter -9. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to. Nobody does that.
You can roast me for it. We'll see who wins. It's all good. It's all about the wins and losses, man.
Take Pittsburgh -38 against UMass. UMass, Scott, last 4 times they played FBS teams, it hasn't gone well. They played Georgia Southern, Marshall, Florida Atlantic, and Liberty, obviously all group of 5 schools. They were outscored 161-12, my friend, and outgained by an average of 295 yards per game. That's not how much they gave up. That's how much the difference was. This is a dreadful, dreadful Minuteman team. You faded what you think is the worst team in FBS. UMass may not be the worst, but they ain't missing it far. I'll take this pretty solid team there in the ACC and the Pittsburgh Panthers. Like Pirates, no. Penguins, no. Pittsburgh Panthers -38 over at UMass. Book it.
So this is going to segue into a brief rant that I have, or a brief story. I'm not going to take too long because I know that's a pretty long video. My third play was originally going to be Liberty -20.5 against Campbell. And I found 20.5, a couple articles were written about it, stuff like that. I was in the middle of writing my preview. I broke it down. Liberty's going to win, blah, blah, blah. I refresh the actual betting page. -38. They went up 18 points in a minute. It went from -20 to -38. So I threw that prediction in the garbage, and I got myself another play that involves UMass and Pittsburgh. And for this game, I got the first quarter over 13 points at -110 on BetMGM. A lot of reasons that you just mentioned. I'll go through them, though. I do have a very nice trend. UMass, we know, gets their brains beaten in every time they play a competent team. And the first quarter has gone over 13 points in 15 of UMass's last 19 games. So they tend to have very high-scoring first quarters. It's not because they're scoring. It's because Pittsburgh, or whatever team they face, tend to score a couple of times. Pickett's back at quarterback for Pittsburgh. The wide receiver core is good. The offensive line's good. Pittsburgh should score a touchdown every time they have the ball with the starters in. You might be wondering what the spread was for the first quarter. It was 10, which is why I was a little bit confused, because there's a 10-point spread for a 38-game, whatever, full-game spread, and at San Diego State was 31.5, and it was only 7 points for the first quarter. So that's why I was a little bit confused. I like the over 13 in the first quarter. I think Pittsburgh should score at least 2 touchdowns in the first 15 minutes, but Pittsburgh's defense also is missing a couple of key pieces in the secondary. So if by some miracle UMass finds a break in coverage, maybe they can kick a field goal. I like the over 13 points in the first quarter.
Over 13?
Yep, over 13 flat, -110, BetMGM.
Okay. All right, and I'm going to finish it up with another game that we talked briefly about, and that's going to be the UCLA-LSU game. I'm going to pick UCLA +3 as one of my top 3 plays of the week. This is my weekly overreaction game to someone beating a bad team, and UCLA, I pick you. Give me the Bruins plus the 3 points. We already broke that game down pretty well, so not much more needs to be said. That's just my play.
Cool. Once again, reminder, if you think quarter plays should be allowed or not allowed, you got a message down below in the comments section, because if there are more no's than yeses, then I will remember for future reference not to do any quarters in games for the rest of the season.
I mean, it's not like you got 6 games on the card and you really have to hunt. You've got
I
literally
lost count at 90.
like 100 games.
Yeah, I lost count at 90.
Pick a total. Pick a side.
In my defense, there were a lot of games that some books with FBS and FCS teams that just didn't have lines up a day before the game, which is just ridiculous.
I don't care for it.
It's annoying.
It's time to lay the wood. This is the wood weekend, Scott. This is
I'm laying the wood. I'm just laying the wood in the first quarter.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to do it for our show. And remember, those 3 picks, I got to do it again. Those 3 picks were, of course, get ready for our 5,000-star whale play. Fade the Public Sharks 1 million unit lock of the century. There you go. That's it. Good luck to you, sir. Good luck to everybody out there. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for downloading on podcast form. We appreciate the effort. Make sure you check us out each and every day. I'm not kidding now. It really is going to be every single day as we break down our favorite games, and then we do our thing during the week, Winners and Whiners Radio. Make sure you tune into that, all right? Good luck on all your plays. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.